How did we reach this drought of blockbuster games? I grew up with amazing games. What happened? Psychologists have found that nostalgia significantly affects the perception of our favorite childhood video games. It often triggers bittersweet memories and a longing for a simpler past. In this video, I'll be taking a trip down memory lane to revisit my childhood game collection and the significant role it played in fostering my passion for video games. And I'll share my thoughts on why I think games have gone downhill. From Mortal Kombat on the SNES to SSX 2012 Get Cozy, and let's trip on some primo nostalgia together. Let's start way back at my first experience with video games. I was probably around 5 years old when my dad finally let me play his SNES, and the only game I remember playing on it was Mortal Kombat 3. My mom caught me playing it once and chewed out my dad for letting me play it on account of all the blood. They came to an agreement and let me and my big brother play it, but only with the blood setting turned all the way down. Sorry, Mom, but we would have full bloodbath level tournaments between the three of us when you weren't home. Here is a sleeper hit that came in the Windows bundles, Midtown Madness. This was Need for Speed before my era's Need for Speed. The even more underground sleeper hit, the Volkswagen Bug with the flower vase having ass thriller of a racing game. I remember the graphics looking shockingly real. I think they literally just wrapped the car models with actual pictures of the cars and it blew my mind. I never played the actual races. I would just speed around the city as fast as I could. There was a super fun launch bug where if you drove max speed into a building, it would shoot you straight up into the air. I don't know why, but after I found this out, that's all I did for probably a year. Around this time, I started spending a lot of time hanging out at my brother's friend's house, owning the Lil Bro vibe. But it was super cool, because they had an N64 with Smash Bros. A new challenger enters, the middle prong for no reason and the rumble pack. Wait, no, never mind. Smash Bros was such a perfect party game. We would play all afternoon. All you would hear is I really gravitated to the characters with melee weapons. They just made the most sense to my dumb kid brain. I loved the fact you could summon Pokemon too with the Pokeballs, because I was super into Pokemon back then. I think most kids were. It was at its absolute peak. So much so, I thought PK Fire was Pika Fire until a few years ago. And now for the best game series to ever drop on the PS2. SSX Snowboarding. Holy shit, I have never fallen in love with a game series more than SSX. The style of the tricks, the attitude of the characters, so obviously lovingly crafted. The SSX games have truly aged so well, and you bet your sweet bippy I'm still playing them to this day. Mostly just for how satisfying it is to carve around the mountains in the free ride modes. But damn, even the first SSX game was so polished. It does suffer from being the first child, like grinding not always working right, and the characters doing really strange things that defy all physics and logic. But the bones were definitely clean as hell. The controls were tight, all the tricks look great, and the real staple of this series is the way the devs just made it so convincing, with the way they make you feel so grounded to the board and the snow. I have yet to have a game make me feel like I'm snowboarding as much as even just this first entry to this series, and I have tried almost all the other spiritual successors like Steep and Riders Republic, and none of them feel real in the way SSX does. I kinda wish the SSX devs would release their code so games like these can be shared with new generations and bring them the joy that they still bring me. But we gotta talk about the other games, because goddamn was SSX Tricky the whole ass thing.
This is gonna be very, very interesting.
Everything great about SSX-1, Nitro blasted to the stratosphere with ingeniously crafted never-before-seen gameplay elements tacked on. Tacked on isn't fair to what I'm trying to convey, but just damn you gotta play this game at least once in your life. Basically, the Nitro fuel that they added was the Tricky system, which added a whole new set of tricks that can't be done in real life, like controlling the board with the Force or some shit. It's just cool as hell. And the way you unlock these tricks is by doing the base tricks from SSX-1 until you build up enough points and fill up the trick gauge, which added such a fun sub-game to an already incredible racing game. And just when you think that's enough, there's more. Once you max out the trick gauge, It's Tricky by Run DMC starts blasting and fucking your shit up.
Oh, shit!
It's just such a perfect pairing, and the way they made the song react to your speed and airtime is so clever and immersive. There's just nothing else like it. And this isn't even the most beloved SSX game in the franchise. Well, it's kinda a toss-up between Tricky and SSX 3 among most of the fans. I think what sets SSX 3 apart the next installment in the series after Tricky is they tightened the bolts up even more. You can tell their main focus for 3 was to just make the game feel as smooth and satisfying as possible. What really stood out to me about it was how the boards cut in and bounce around in the snow. This time around they added in fluffier patches of freshly fallen snow, and really worked their programming magic and made it feel so damn real and smooth. And of course, 3 still had all the bells and whistles from Tricky, just renamed to Monster and Uber Tricks, probably for copyright reasons. But 3 also added in riding from race to race, and even had pro shops you could ride into and buy boards and outfits for the characters. But gun to my head, I would probably choose Tricky to take to a stranded island scenario. The next game in the series, though, is what I have been playing the most, SSX On Tour. I will say, though, the reason for that is, you can use skis in this one, which is something I never knew that I wanted from an SSX game. I guess I knew that I liked watching freestyle skiing at the X Games more than boarding, but I never connected the two. Like, I never thought, oh dang, SSX should add skis. But when I first played On Tour, I was very glad they did. There's just something about carving up a saucy S while riding backward on skis that gives me the good brain chemicals. From what I've heard, though, On Tour was pretty poorly received. To be fair, coming from 3's masterful snow and board physics to On Tour only having hard-packed X Games-esque snow. It pales in comparison. It feels like a different team of people were handed the SSX bones and weren't told how everything worked, so they just did their best and slapped skiing into the game and called it good. And I mean, like I said, I've been playing it a lot recently, and it's super fun. It just lacks a lot of the immersion that 3 has. In On Tour, you also really can only play as a customized character for the main section of the game, which I loved, just cause I love customization, but even I can feel the shocking lack of all the great characters they had built up over all the previous games. Then, there's the reboot SSX 2012, and man, is it disappointing. Once again, it feels like a brand new team made it with their only knowledge of the game being a friend telling them about it, but maybe that's too harsh. It's a fun game. They even brought back the Tricky system with Tricky at the bottom of the screen. The tricks and boost animation are crazier than ever, with this really interesting shockwave animation when you land huge tricks. All the main characters are back, but really lackluster in the customization department. You can't have a custom character, and the outfits you can unlock are all just recolors, and the menus are so shit, it's really hard to tell what the boards will look like before you unlock them. And the worst part about it is somehow they must have lost the code from SSX 3, because the board to snow feel has never been worse. A lot of times it feels like you're floating above the snow, not riding on it, and there is this rubber band feeling mechanic that tries to keep you on the tracks, and it kind of feels like the game is telling you, hey, you're playing real bad right now. Let me help you, which never feels good. I'd rather just fail and get better over time. This time around, the big innovation was adding in challenge runs, like don't fall off the mountain, don't suffocate at high altitudes, and don't get impaled by trees. This is kind of fun, but gets annoying after a while and leaves you saying, this isn't why SSX is fun. Let me just race and do sick tricks on interesting courses. Oh yeah, and the courses in this one feel really uninspired. They are themed after tourist attractions all over the world, but they all just kinda look the same, which gets old fast. All in all, I obviously love the SSX games, but more than anything, I think we need more games in the extreme sports genre of a similar caliber of polish. If you want to hear me ramble about more childhood games, let me know in the comments, but I want to move on to the main topic. Why do games just seem to keep getting worse? Some say it's because game companies prioritize ESG scores over creating good games, as it allows them to access cheap funding and mitigate financial risks. This has created a cycle where companies must produce games that align with specific ideologies to secure funding, resulting in a decline in game quality. Others say that modern video games are suffering because the industry focuses on high production values and unnecessary complexity, instead of creating engaging and enjoyable gameplay. For example, Risk of Rain succeeded with small budgets and simple gameplay, while games like Suicide Squad are bogged down with unnecessary features and filler content. I think it has more to do with just pure greed, with every AAA game company putting all their time and energy into innovation, but only innovating ways to squeeze every last cent out of their loyal fans. There has also been a glaring shift towards prioritizing graphics over gameplay and storytelling. When I look back on my cherished childhood games, they hold up to great games like The Witcher 3 or Baldur's Gate 3, not because of the graphics whatsoever. It's because these games are at their core made to be fun and satisfying. Not just some tech demo or time-wasting slop served up just to make money. It's like the corporate world has sucked all the passion out of their games, and they fail to realize that if they let people run with their fun ideas, they would make more money just from base game sales, rather than jamming all their games full of microtransactions. These damn corpos seemingly have no clue what their fans want, even though it takes just a few minutes to actually consider what your target audience is actively pleading with you to fix about your games, be it on social media or beta tests. The rise of greed and lack of passion has been very clear to me for a while now, with unfinished games being released, and later patched into the full game that was marketed to the public. I think this specific scenario needs to be cracked down on, in the same way every other false advertisement case is handled in other industries. It's just such a scummy loophole that is being exploited more and more every year, and there is really nothing you can do as an individual to stop it. And I'll just touch on the stark over-reliance on established franchises and lack of innovation. I don't know if we have reached the point that new stories can't be made because every possible creative idea has already been done or what. But I honestly can't name a single new IP from the last few years that had any impact on me whatsoever. And that's really sad, but at least I'm not alone in feeling this way. I long for gaming to return to the days of play to unlock instead of pay to win, and so many other soulless features that have infested gaming culture. I encourage others to cherish their childhood memories and think back to what made them happy, as it can be a way to rediscover oneself. Despite the simplicity of some of these games, I'm proud of my childhood game collection and the unique experiences it provided. You need to watch this video about a game dev who lies about everything, and remember, seek to learn, not judge.